I'm sitting here with Marieke Meischke. We've been knowing each other for many, many years. She's an amazing, versatile woman in the music world, in the music business. I know how versatile you are, but it's really incredible how many things you've been doing. And my main reason to invite you is to give the musicians who listen to this podcast, the self-management podcast, an insight on the other side from a booking agent, a tour manager, someone so experienced in the business. And I want to welcome you to this podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. It's very nice to be here.
Thank you for coming to my house here in Amsterdam. You were born and raised with music, from what I understood. A lot of different music, Miles Davis, jazz, pop. So music has always been in your family, right?
Absolutely, yes, very much so. I was very lucky to have a father who was actually a quite accomplished piano player, classical music, but he was also a great jazz and pop music lover. So I was basically raised. I built my tent underneath the grand piano, so I heard him play for hours a day. So this is where Debussy and Ravel and Schumann and Brahms, this is how I was exposed to that music. But he would also just get on his bike and cycle for 6 miles to the record store and come home with Joni Mitchell, Bill Evans, and also even soul, all kinds of music. So he just went there into a booth and he listened to it and he loved it. And so he was very passionate. So we listened a lot to music together as well.
So maybe this versatile thing you have, you kind of got it from him.
Yeah, well, my versatile taste in music, absolutely. He also did a lot of house concerts. So I would sometimes, sing with him. We would play some Gershwin, or I would do announcements, and I would write all these stories about the history, about the lives of the composers, which is very funny sometimes because I wouldn't always, I wouldn't always shine the light on the best parts. So, but it was, so I was drenched in it, definitely. Yes. How do you say that? Asterix and Obelix. I fell into
immersed.
I
with
fell into
music.
a big fan of music.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
And you also worked to jump right into a subject, because there's so much again to talk about, or you do so many things. You worked for many years for Thomas Townsend from Saudades Tourneen in Austria, which is
not so many years, I have to say. It wasn't that long, but still, it felt like many years.
Yeah,
it was a very important period. Yes.
Yeah, and it enabled you to work with absolute world-class musicians.
True.
Being a booking agent, but also a tour manager. To mention a couple of big names in jazz, like John Scofield, Jack DeJohnette, Carla Bley, Gary Allen, Bill Frisell, Dave Holland, and the wonderful vocalist Joyce. And can you elaborate a little bit on this, especially from being on the side of the other side of the desk, so to speak?
Mm-hmm, yeah. Well, I have to say, before that, I was driving the van at the BIM house in Amsterdam, picking up musicians from airports and train stations. So I kind of really dove into the deep. Into the booking agency. So I had to learn a lot, and it was scary at the beginning because you basically have to sell musicians. But in those days, it was probably 20 years ago, it was a bit easier, venues would come to you and we had great names. So it was, you didn't really have to sell very hard. What to say about that? Yeah, what is it exactly that you would like to know?
Let's say I'm a musician at the start of my career, and I want to try to step my foot into the door of the concerts, you know.
Yeah.
So what would you advise a musician to enter? If you want to play at the BIM House, this is a great example.
Yeah.
The BIM House is our
Temple.
our temple, our jazz temple here in the Netherlands, but also in Europe. You know, it's considered as maybe one of the best jazz venues in the world. Even it's the place to play, especially here in the Netherlands. So I'm a musician. I start. I have my band, whatever project I have, and so you receive an email from a musician. Hello, this is so and so. I want to play at your venue. Yeah. How do you perceive these messages, and how would you? Well, please, you understand.
I do understand. Yes, I get a lot of those emails. I was running a jazz festival called So It's Next in Eindhoven for 6 years, and so I get these emails a lot. And wow, where to start? Some of the emails I feel like, well, it's very important to if you want to send an email to a programmer, make it personal. Don't send an email to 100 people and write, dear whoever reads this. I mean, this is a no-go.
Spray and pray.
Don't do that. Just find out who's in charge. Make the effort to find out who is programming. And send an email to this. But I mean, first of all, find out if this venue is actually the venue where you fit, because it happens a lot. I mean, I get requests for Dixieland, music to be at a quite modern festival. So this is a big waste of time for everyone, to be honest.
And gives a bad impression.
Yes, it does, because you didn't do your homework, basically. So. Be aware of whom you are addressing and what it exactly is what you want. I mean, so try to be realistic in this and try to see, like, okay, this is a venue and these people are playing here. Look at the schedule, look at the agenda, and say, okay, do I fit in here? Am I already there? Can I do this? So if you're not, but you feel like one day I will be there at the BIM House for once. Have a look around and see where you can showcase your music. So this is this is the first step, basically. Because if you get there, I mean, if you apply for a showcase at, for instance, in Jazz, which is the best showcase festival we have in the Netherlands, in June in Rotterdam, and Amsterdam, by the way, apply for that and make a good application. Just make sure that your socials are in order. Make sure that your story is in order. Make sure you have good live footage. Very, very important. I mean, we get a lot of those videos sent by bands where they are in the studio recording, and then there's a lot of talking about where they explain about their album, and this is the philosophy behind it. And say, don't do it, because we really have no time. As a jury, I'm on a lot of juries. We have no time to listen to that. We just want to hear the music, preferably see how you perform live. This is extremely important. So be sure you have a good live video, and be sure it's up to date. I see sometimes videos that are 10 years old and think, is this the band that we're going to get? I don't think so. This happens too. Or if they have a band, or what happened recently, I'm on the jury of the Israel Showcase Festival. A fantastic band, a quartet, and then I see a video of a trio playing with a symphony orchestra. So, well, this is not what we're going to see if we choose them. So make sure this is all right and this is all good. So, and then apply, and already a professional jury will hear you, which is good. And if you're chosen, delegates will be invited, and lots of programmers, record labels, journalists will hear you and see you. And this works really well.
I'm glad you brought this up about the showcases, because in this podcast I talk about things like having a good video, direct access to the music, because if a promoter, like you said, or a booker has to search for the music, receiving zillion emails every day. You have to make it kind of easy for them.
Yeah.
But the showcase thing is something I've never talked about, and to be honest, also because it's not that I never needed it, but I've done a different path in my career.
Yeah, it's different times now, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
From when you started. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So this whole emphasis on showcase your music, and I mean, we're talking about jazz now, but of course, this goes for any. I mean, I think there are showcases in any genre, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Eurosonic, Noorderslag is, the greatest one in pop music.
Pop music, yeah. And I guess for world music stuff, there are showcases as well.
Womax, of course.
The Womax.
Babelmet,
Yeah. So the showcasing thing is something starting musicians should really focus on.
Absolutely.
To get the right attention and then, okay.
Yes.
Great, important.
Very important.
Yeah.
I can talk about this subject for hours.
Well, if you have some more showcase tips, please.
Yeah, but
that's more.
Well, then I don't know what to start. But I mean, it's just also it also has to do. I just actually in Sofia at the festival A2 Jazz, I was hosting a panel discussion about this with 3 directors of European Showcase Festivals. So we talked about everything, every single part of it. Also about going to, for instance, as a band, even if you're not chosen to showcase, to go to Jazz Ahead in Bremen. Jazz Ahead is the largest jazz conference in the world, actually. And there are many showcases from all over the world. Almost every single country is there. And it's also about, what do you do? Just go there, you go there, you invest. It's good to invest in this. And you have your music out, even if you're not performing there, how do you go around, introduce yourself to whom? And it's, what is a bit sad sometimes is that we feel like, that musicians are begging for some attention and to say, here's my CD, please listen to it. We don't like that. I mean, in the sense we wish and we try everything to have more equality in this, because we actually need, you musicians as much as you need us. So, you don't have to make it just about the music. We can talk about other topics. We can become friends, or ask me if you can call me sometimes. So, to talk about it. Don't be afraid also to go up to professionals and say, hey, is it possible for me to have a talk with you, just for an hour or so, because I have all these questions.
This is a great point, because so many musicians have the feeling like, well, there's so much going on already. Who's waiting for me?
Right, yes. And you don't want to be discouraged. And there are also many times there are speed dates organized between professionals and musicians, and you can pick the ones that you feel that could work for you and that could help you, and just go for these things, because in this way you build your network. And next time you're somewhere and you see the same people, like, hey, remember me? Yes, did you hear my music, or did you? And then you build relationships. This is really a way to build relationships.
Nothing beats a personal contact.
Nothing beats that.
I mean, like this podcast too. I've got software to record podcasting from a distance, so I can record anywhere in the world as long as you have an internet connection. But having some lunch before, and it really enhances the whole thing. And
driving for an hour and a half, pouring rain, to be here on this table is
highly appreciated.
No, but this is something that I also really prefer. So yes.
So personal contact, looking people in the eyes and talk to them, hear a voice.
Yes.
Yeah, nothing comes close.
And I sometimes take young musicians by the hand, and I go through this huge building in Bremen. And I just take them by the hand, and we just walk, and we sort of scan, and I say, like, oh, this person, oh, wait a minute, this could work. Fantastic. And then I just introduce them. And
that's wonderful.
We talked about this, and a lot of professionals are really fine doing this. They're really there to help also. So don't hesitate to ask for this favor.
Yeah, because also a lot of promoters, people who organize concerts, especially in jazz, I mean, I don't know how commercial it is. Not, I mean, sometimes I know you talk about big commercial festivals, but of course there are a lot of people who do this out of love for the music.
Yes, I think most of us do. Yes,
Yeah.
nobody's in the business to become rich, because then you hop to the pop world. Even
Yeah.
then, true. So everyone is passionate about this, and we're all in it also to support the next generation.
Yeah.
So it keeps going, and it's a family. It really feels like a family. I mean, there's a network called the Europe Jazz Network. It's a very important network. There are almost 200 or 300, I think, almost 300 connections, festivals connected to that. And in September we will all come together. Every year we come together, all of us. And we talk and we find ways to make things easier, to do grain touring, we talk about gender balance, we talk about everything. And so we're so happy to share our knowledge and to share our experiences.
Wonderful.
And look at their site, because it's interesting also, EGN, Europe Jazz Network, because there's a lot you can find. You can also find all the festivals in Europe, and when they are, and who's in charge, and it's a very good way of doing some, investigation.
I will put a link to your website and to this European network site in the show notes, so you can easily find it. One other question about the showcasing thing. What about age limit, or is there an age limit?
Very good question. It's something... Well, the opinions are not always the same on this, but I actually called musicians who applied for a showcase on So What's Next Festival, and I said, come on now, I mean, you really don't need this anymore, do you? So even though you're playing with some younger people, but it would be a bit strange to have you play here for the minimum of fee, because you're really quite known. And so I look at age, I do. To be honest. But what is the limit? I don't know, 40? I don't know. I don't have an age. I don't know their ages, but sometimes you see a band and then you think, the beards are so long, and I think, I don't know. I think by now they should have made it if they're really good. Yeah.
And why do you think people who are,
But it's tricky.
Because sometimes, I get emails sometimes like that I can apply for a showcase because I'm in, the jazz head. But I go like, well, on one hand, I haven't played everywhere I would like to play. On the other hand, I'm also kind of established. I'm also really busy traveling the world. Nothing to complain. So, but some colleagues, without wanting to mention any names, I see them on all these showcases, and I go like, why?
Yes, it is. Because they need to play too. So I do understand this. And some of them perhaps have a good career in the Netherlands, and their step to foreign countries, came a bit late. This is also possible. We have the pandemic in between, where there's a lot of, where we couldn't do anything. Some delay came up. So I don't know. It's a tricky thing.
Also, maybe.
But I feel like you know how to do this, and you know the way, with your experience how to do it. So please give the stage to younger people. This is my personal feeling, but I do understand if they apply. And actually, last year, Aardvark saxophone quartet played at India. So and they're not the youngest.
No.
But yeah, they applied and they were chosen, and they had an interesting project. So yes.
Actually. And did they gather like new gigs in places they had never performed before?
This I don't know exactly, and I actually encourage showcase festivals to put that on their website to see what came out of that. So this I don't know. I should ask them, but most probably yes, because it's a lot of people coming to listen to you. So I think it always works, to be honest, yes.
So no matter how old you are, there is some exposure. Yeah, of course.
Absolutely. And you get, and it's recorded, so you get really beautiful videos that you can use for promotion.
Yeah.
So this is also
Maybe it's also just a common problem. There is, like, a couple of weeks ago, I wasn't, there was this whole, I was on a playlist, an editorial playlist of Spotify with his song, and it was streamed more than 1 million times, almost 2 million times. And then they removed it from the playlist. And then I went from 50,000 listeners to 6,000 in 1 week on Spotify.
whoa, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, I really had to deal with this. On one hand, I should say, I don't care, it's only, we're all in this whole trap of likes and
But may I interrupt you? I mean, so you went from that many to 6,000, but how many listened to you before that? So
no, it did help. I mean, it boosted my profile. I got new people discovered my music.
Yeah.
So, but it's that whole problem everybody's facing, like the exposure, the likes, the competition.
Yeah, it's
it's like the FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Yeah.
Even if you're more established, like, that's a big problem. It causes a lot of anxiety, this whole internet thing.
Of course, because it is the opposite of being in a state of creativity and composing. So it is very tough to combine these things for most people, for most creative people, because basically it's selling, and this is not in the DNA of artists. So it's very hard. So you can be very lucky if there's someone in your band who likes to build websites and who likes to do that stuff, because there are people who actually have both of those qualities. Yeah. But a lot of them are very stressed by it, and they feel like they're always too late, and they feel like. And I actually, I'm also coaching young musicians, finding the core of the story, and also how to connect with audiences, and how to basically expose, and how to express, or in what way. And I was coaching 6 Swiss bands, and it was hilarious. I have to say, it was fantastic, and they were all wonderful. But without wanting to generalize, but it's not easy to do that, I can say the Swiss find it extremely difficult to sell themselves. They're very modest, very polite, very modest, and it's terrible. So I really had to find ways with them to, to say. One of them said, we do a gig, and then we know there's a record label and a booking agent in the room. We know this because we put them on the guest list, and after our show, we don't go there to talk with them.
Really?
Yeah. This is how modest they are. So, and this is an extreme example, but I know a lot of musicians find it extremely uncomfortable to say, hey, this is me, here I am, what did you think of the music, and isn't it great? And so it's painful.
But there is another country in Europe which is similar, in my observation, without wanting to generalize. But if you talk about cultures and stuff, you shouldn't generalize. I always call it tendencies. I mean, after so many travels,
a good word.
You see certain. I mean, it is true that the closer you get to the equator, people tend to be late. It's just true, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
It's cultural stuff, which is also maybe fascinating. Norway has the same modesty, the musicians, but what do Norway and Switzerland have in common? They're extremely wealthy countries, and in my observation, when you can basically divide the world in 2 kinds of countries if it comes to this. Countries where survival is the main priority or not.
That's a very interesting point. Yeah.
Because I know a lot of musicians in Brazil, for instance, which is...
I was thinking of Brazil immediately, about a Brazilian musician I know who's quite desperate, yes. And,
and the level there's extremely high. I mean, Brazil is a musical planet on Earth. It's incredible. Yeah. And I was there earlier this year. So many musicians are struggling there, and I'm talking about really world-class level players, singers, and etc. And they are much more fighting to for their space in the in the music business,
Surviving.
in the music world. That's their survival mentality. So I think that also plays a role, right?
It's a very interesting. I've never seen it from that side, but it's a very interesting point, and I will really happily think about that more and see. And actually, I'm going to Norway for a festival next month, so I will talk to people there and find some discussions. I'm curious. Interesting point, absolutely.
Yeah, because also for the Norwegians, to get funding, for them it's relatively easy. If they want to travel abroad, because it's such a wealthy country, which is great for them.
They're just spoiled, right?
In a way, I would,
I mean, but still, because of that, they don't get out of the country. They don't play outside of the country. At least this is what I experienced with the bands in Switzerland. So they because they don't sell themselves. They don't show themselves.
But I was talking about Brazil, but I mean, for instance, in Spain, I also know musicians are struggling. But
absolutely.
Many friends, their music friends, and I know an incredible flamenco musician, really amazing, who works at the supermarket there because there's no work. So. And they're also fighters in a way, but it's hard.
Yeah, it is.
So it's not only outside of Europe, but also within Europe.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of difference. But it's interesting, right? That how this determines the mentality.
Yes, it really is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can you tell a little bit more about the coaching? Your coaching?
Yes, well, I have been coaching since 9 years, I think, at Artes, Music Conservatory in Enschede. Lyric writing, spoken word. In the past few years, a little less, but
I told you were versatile.
Well, writing lyrics is my first love.
I know. Yeah,
and I still love to write. So I've been coaching young musicians there, and from there on, I kind of developed this. I also work for Arts and Parts, which is an office in London, and that are specialized in talent developing schemes, all kinds of things. So they have asked me to participate and to coach also in various countries with various musicians. And I kind of developed this program called The Core of the Story, on how to find what it actually is that you want to say on stage, and then I'm not talking about singers only, but also about any instrument, and yes, finding that chord, knowing what you're doing there, feeling what you're doing there, sharing this, connecting in that way with the audience, with the listeners, because this is a basic thing.
So important.
This is where it starts.
Yeah.
So what is it that you have to tell, and why, and to whom, and how? And this is a fantastic journey that I can help you with.
That's wonderful, to create some awareness on.
For instance, I can give you an example of one of the Swiss. It was a Swiss lady piano player, and I watched her videos before I talked to her. And she was wearing her hoodie, and she was basically invisible behind her piano, with the back to the audience, and wearing her jeans and sneakers, and you couldn't see who she was. So I talked to her, and I asked her, "So why are you hiding?" And she said, "Well, I kind of, because there are not many female jazz pianists, we thought I'd be one of the guys." And so we kind of agreed on for her to, find her femininity in this, also her feminine side. And
that's sad, actually.
It was, yes. And but it's a tough world.
Yeah.
Don't want to, be negative about it. It's a wonderful world as well. And she found it really hard to connect with the audience. She was very shy. And then and I asked her, "Do you write? Do you write words?" She said, "Yes, I write poetry." I said, "Oh, good." So we found a way in which she could, without actually addressing the audience directly, but she could use some spoken word about her compositions. And so she would perform some spoken word between her songs, between her compositions. And this was a way where she could turn to the audience and connect with them not in a very direct way, but still, there was a connection. And she would reveal more of herself, of her personal story, basically.
This is fantastic.
And this worked.
Because you create a whole, you bring out the best out of people.
Well, I hope, yeah.
Things they don't know.
If they want.
Yeah, of course.
If they're willing.
Yeah, that's true. It all starts with open, but it's amazing.
But they choose also to see me, so then they,
Of course. But I'm pretty sure that this lady had not envisioned before, like, playing in a hoodie, kind of almost like "Sorry I Exist."
Yes.
And then end up doing spoken word in between the songs. Yeah. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it was fun.
Wow, I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
Yeah, tell me about your own festival. You had a great idea. It's called the Flat Fest.
Oh, yes.
I love this concept.
Well, yes, this was in a time when there was the financial crisis, so I had no work. I just moved to Eindhoven, the city. There was no one in that city I knew, and so what to do? And I was living in actually, I said to myself, I will never marry a musician. I will never, live in a huge apartment building.
Never marry a musician. Do you hear this, everybody? Never marry a musician.
I will never live in the south of the Netherlands. So I did all that in 1 week time, and and it was interesting because a lot of expats lived in that building, and I figured the apartments were actually large enough to have a house concert. So I invented with my then husband. We invented Flatfest. And we asked the people who lived there to open up their living room and to host a band. So the Turks had a Turkish band, the Spanish had Erik Parsons Morel for the flamenco guitarist. So we found matching bands for every household, and it was super great. So we had altogether 14 stages, and in the lobby we had young classical artists from the music school, and we had a choir from the neighborhood, and it worked really well. And I'm sad actually that I did it twice, and then I moved because of a divorce, and then I had to move.
It was a personal, but in every city there are flats.
I know, it's true.
Flat, for those who don't understand, it's the Dutch word for apartment building. Apartment
building, right? Yeah. Yes. So I mean, it's a flat in a flat, actually. Yeah. So in an apartment building. No, actually, I did. Actually, I talked. I had a building in New York, actually, that wanted to do that. I tried, but I don't know. It's kind of stranded there. Also because then I was asked to work for the festival, So What's Next? So I didn't really have much time to do this. But still, I mean, I just keep it in mind. Flatfest.nl. Have a look. It's fun to watch the after movies.
I'll put it in the show notes as well.
It's a very connecting kind of thing, because also the people who lived there, who were not in touch at all with each other, after that, they would greet and they would, get to know each other better. So that was also nice.
And fantastic. And which festivals are you currently working with?
Well, I have my tiny little, because I stopped in Eindhoven, but I have my tiny little festival called Afzien, which is hard to translate.
How do you say afzien?
Afzien.
It's not sacrifice, but
suffering,
struggle, but something like that.
Yeah, struggle. It's hard to explain why I chose that name. It's also short for Achterhoeks Festival. Zonder interessante eigen naam. In Dutch, it's sort of it's in the east, in somewhere. So for the Dutch people listening, just explain that. It's tiny. We have like 5-6 tiny bands, and it's fun, and it's not commercial in any way. But I'm working now on a new 3-day festival, which I cannot reveal yet. I cannot say where it will be, and I cannot say when it will happen. Next year, that's for sure. But when we get it, when it works, when it's So basically, working on that very hard. And that would be a festival for bands from the Netherlands.
Wonderful.
So we would really support them Yes, I wouldn't call it a showcase festival, but there's a lot to discover. So, and it will be jazz in all its forms. I mean, it will be, broad band jazz.
Yeah. A lot of styles.
Yeah.
And you're also very often, because here in the Netherlands we have a couple of awards, like the Boy Edgar Prize, which is every year goes to a Dutch jazz musician. There's the 80s song, which is the Dutch equivalent of the Grammy.
Right.
And you're also in the jury. And I don't know, of course, that also requires some, integrity. You cannot. Is there something you can share about it, in the sense of not like who you like and what your judgment is, but can you somehow give some...
The winners are...
No. But some behind the scene information which could be interesting for the listener, how things work. Who is selected to be the jury, not the artist.
How
does that work?
Interesting, yes. I don't know. Actually, it goes, we all know each other. Actually, it's a small world. And like I said before, it's like a family jazz world. So we all know each other. So people recommend you, basically. And you're always very, you're very honored to be asked for that. I always say yes. I also work for the Dutch Performing Arts Fund, and they are hosting Boy Edgar Prize. So because I work there, so now for several years, I'm on that jury. And what I can say is that the juries are really carefully chosen. And there's a diversity in that. People come from all kinds of areas in the business. And that we are very, very, very careful. That we talk for days on end about. We have discussions. It's done very carefully and with a lot of thought and a lot of feeling and heart. So, in case people, get really angry, it's like, what? This person wanted it. We really thought about it. We really listened. We listened very carefully to start with. Yes.
Yes, and this also brings me to the next question. Not only in the jury environment, but also as a booking agency or our agent or promoter or programmer. How do you deal with musicians who get turned down, artists, and they get pissed off?
Well,
you must get a lot of shit,
Well, no, I'm lucky. I didn't really, but I know some stories, of course. I was on a jury of Jazz IM, which is a showcase festival in Barcelona, run by Rosa Galbani. She's fantastic. And I was hosting a talk about management and booking. And there were 3 wonderful ladies of booking agents and management organizations. So we got this question from someone in the audience, and so they said, "What do you do?" I don't know if I can say that. What do you do if your musician is a jazzhole? An asshole, sorry. And then we said, well, we call them jazzhole. This is what someone said. So now actually this word is so sort of it integrated in our... So we call them, first of all, we call them a jazzhole. And of course, it's not just musicians. And it is, with an attitude. We have terrible managers. We have jazzholes everywhere. Not so many, but they are there. So how do you deal with them? Well, with musicians, you have to have, if you're a manager, you have to make a very good and sound plan. And if they say, well, I'm going to do it my way anyway, then it's no use, basically. Then they should do it their way. So I must say, I don't know many musicians that are being a jazzhole, but after that, actually, a whole discussion came up between all the promoters that were there during lunch, and someone said, well, I actually have a blacklist. So I said, okay, so, and we figured out everyone had a blacklist. No, wow. I'm not saying a long one, but there's just certain musicians who said, well, we will not book this musician anymore because they're ruining the vibe. They are giving our technical team a lot of stress. Their behavior is just not acceptable. So for me, it is a rule when I'm programming a festival, just that they're kind people.
Yeah.
And that we are in a good vibe all together, that we're just, because we're throwing a party here, we're not here to complain. So if everything, be clear about your technical writer, don't have crazy demands, try to put yourself in the place of a promoter of a festival. We're trying really hard we're not doing this for us, we're doing this for everyone. So,
and for a lot of money, like you said before.
Right, so the greater good. So we're we have to find the money also somewhere, and we're working really hard, I can tell you. So just be polite, and work with us. This is my advice and my wish.
Yeah.
Don't be a jazzhole, because, it might happen that you don't get booked anymore.
I'm always so puzzled by a lot of colleagues I know who really messed up their career by having the wrong mentality. This is also something I talk about in an earlier episode in this podcast. Like, a career in music means 200%. It's 100% great artistry, but the other 100% is mentality. Because you can be a great artist, but if your mentality sucks, then you're also not going to make it.
Yeah, it's true. If you think you're better than the rest, and if you are God's gift to the music world, then you can figure it out yourself. I worked with a guy who was playing in Croatia, and he wanted a Fazioli. It was 2 years after the war, or Serbia. It was in Serbia, of course. But anyway, no, in Croatia. I can't remember now. But, he wanted a 5-star hotel, and that was 2 hours drive away from a perfectly fine 4-star hotel. I said, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
So I refuse to work with people like that.
Yeah. And the other problem is, once you have the reputation that you're a jazzhole, it's almost impossible to get rid of that reputation, even if you change.
Yeah. It's true.
The bad reputation will stick with you for at least years. So you have to do. So if you change your behavior at some point, then it still might be too late, because that's also the human thing. Once people stick this in their minds, like, well, I don't want to work with this person because of this or that. It's almost impossible to get rid of that. So
true. So be careful.
Be
and
aware.
It's all about good relationships and to have a good vibe at the festival or the venue, and it's important. Because also having excruciating sound checks. It's just come on, just
be flexible.
Yeah.
I learned this too. I've never been unkind. I always think kindness is the way to build a career. Actually, it's one of the pillars of a successful career. And I'm trying. I'm as flexible as I can be.
Yeah, this is good. This is why you have the career you have, which is an amazing career, and you thrive on the relationships and on your kindness and your willingness to work together. Yeah. So, another one example of this can also be what happens sometimes in showcases, which is timed, because you have, let's say, half an hour to play, because they're shorter sets. So, for promoters to be able to hear everything. And what happens sometimes is that they play longer. They take the time of the next band. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, you want another one? It's like, no, no, because this is the time for the sound check of the next band. You're taking that away. This happens. So think twice, this is not good for your career. That
also gives a bad impression.
Absolutely.
And they think
you have to support each other too,
Yeah.
I think also on socials, just, you can say like, oh, we're playing there and this is our tour list. But, you can also sometimes support another band. It's like, hey, this is a cool band of my friend, and, go and see them.
Yeah,
it's not competition in that way, because it's a different band.
But that's an important thing on social media, that everybody's only talking about themselves, while sharing someone else's music, also is a kind of a kindness which only will enhance your reputation.
True. Let's support each other. Let's be a community and not, just fight for our own.
Yeah.
I think you see that in New York. New York has a very strong community. And London as well,
true.
Where they stick together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not one of those persons, although I grew up here, who's always complaining about the Netherlands. A lot of people do, because after so much traveling, there's also a lot of great stuff here. But I must say, there is a tendency here of a lot of gossip, things like that. And
there's the tendency word again.
A tendency. I don't say it's the culture.
It's nice.
Maybe it is the culture. I don't know. Being Dutch, I'm not afraid to say that. But
it's because we are living so close to each other. We don't have much space.
That's one of the disadvantages of a small country, because there's a lot to talk about on this thing, because the small country. Let me get back to this, because like also in Brazil, which is huge, everybody's struggling, not a lot of money to play with, but musicians are really beautiful with each other and respect each other.
I know.
But in this country, which is so small, that's also a problem. That's one of the reasons, for instance, why I realized at a very young age, like if I want to make a living out of playing this music, which is not music for the millions, I should see the world as the place to work, and not only the Netherlands, because in a small country like this, we have the Bimhuis, then we have a couple other great venues in Rotterdam, Utrecht, a couple of festivals, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it is true that a small country is a disadvantage. Switzerland, where you were just saying, also a small country, small scene.
Yeah.
So I think it's important for musicians to realize that they should really broaden their horizon and try to play abroad as much as they can, because if you live in a small country, that's really...
true. And I'm glad to say that our relationship with Belgium is very good. So, and they're open to the Dutch. And I hope the Dutch are open to the Belgians. And yes, they are as well.
Yeah.
But, let's work together,
Yeah. So what sharing is caring, eh?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And giving is receiving.
Yeah.
It's so true, especially in the music world, which is a tough, especially, I mean, we're mainly focused on jazz, because of course that's a real niche thing, and again, not music for the millions. So it's so important to have this community.
Yes, and to keep it alive, and to keep it fresh, and to be open to new styles, to new ideas, and I think we're doing this quite well in Europe.
Yeah.
In the Netherlands as well. Yes, I think we're doing good.
That's great.
I'm very positive about jazz, whatever it is. But yes,
it's wonderful.
Yes, because it's the adventurous creative music, and in which we can really express ourselves, and it will always stay for sure. Doesn't even smell funny, I think.
No. How beautiful! I really want to thank you for this beautiful talk.
Well, thank you.
And
it
again,
was a pleasure.
Thank you again for being here. And I'm going to put your website in the show notes. Please, everybody, check Marieke Meischke, because there's so much going on. I mean, if we would cover every subject, then we would be talking here for 4 or 5 hours. But there's a lot to be seen on your website. And thanks so much, and hope to talk again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you have any comments, questions, or requests for topics, please email me at info@mikedelferro.com. Also, if you would be interested in my music, please visit my website, mikedelferro.com. I also host a personal podcast, the Mike Del Ferro podcast, with lots of travel stories, interviews with fascinating people, and much more. You'll find the link to this podcast in the show notes. If you enjoy my podcast, then please subscribe, give it a rating, and share it with other musicians. I also host another podcast, the Mike Del Ferro podcast, with travel stories, interviews with wonderful people, and more. You will find it on Spotify and all other podcast platforms, or via my website, mikedelferro.com.